I love your role. It's both you and Hamza have like a lot of other stuff going on, and you got to be a doctor. So,
Yeah.
do you have parallels in your life that is like both of that? Like you got this stuff going on, and you got a big reach to
Yeah.
be you.
Well, up until very recently, like just a couple months ago, I had obviously my work on Transplant, and I also owned a martial arts academy that I was really, really committed and involved in. And with the whole COVID situation and my relationship status changed and all that kind of stuff, the business is no more. But I'm almost always doing more than one thing. Prior to the business, I was competing a lot in Jujutsu and training a lot. So yeah, I'm one of those people that I almost do better when I have a couple different things that I'm doing than when I have just one thing, because if I only have one thing to kind of hyper focus on, I can overthink too much, and it can become unpleasant as opposed to enjoyable. Whereas if I can kind of split my attention and bounce around, I tend to do well in all of those things. It's an ADHD thing. So that's kind of the way that I've organized my life over the years.
So in real life, I mean, well, your boyfriend on the show, you could take your boyfriend.
Yeah, it's funny. Eddie, actually, the actor who plays Lou, his name is Eddie, and he started doing jujitsu also, and he really enjoyed it. So I don't know if he's still training, but yeah, I mean, technically, I could for sure.
Have you guys ever rolled together?
No, we didn't have a chance to. We don't live in the same city, and so whenever we really got to see each other, we were working, and he's a dad, he's got a great family and all that kind of stuff, so he doesn't really like spend extra time away from them. He comes in, he gets his work done, does a great job, and then gets back to his other work, which is his family. So we didn't have a chance to, but I did get a chance to train with Jim and Hamza. I took them both to do some jujitsu and some boxing, and they blew it out of the water. They did such a good job. And Hamza still boxes now. He's boxing like all the time, actually. So yeah, we get up to some fun stuff.
You see my boxing machine right here? My exercise?
Oh, nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a computer that tells you where to hit and all these different levels. It's called exercise.
Does it take up a lot of space? I should look into that.
Yes, it's big.
I'm gonna check that out.
Back to you. How did you, from all these facets of your life, how did you become a doctor for the show?
I was actually in the process of doing some upgrades to my business location, some renovations, and I got this audition come in, and this is a perfect example of what I mean of being able to split my attention. So I got an audition that came in. I loved the character. It was really interesting. I did the audition. It was for another character on the show, and because I had something else going on, I had an opportunity to really just have fun with the character and then move back to what I was doing before. So a couple of months went by, and I ended up getting a call asking me to film for June. And it was a similar situation where I was about to teach a kids class, and I really just kind of like connected with the material and with the character. I felt like I understood this person really well, and that I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like I kind of felt like I saw something in her that I wanted to help communicate or share with the public. And so I did like 28 takes, which is like not usually what you're supposed to send to a casting director. You're supposed to only send a couple, but I was just like, if I can't be in the audition room with you, here's everything that I can think of, and then you choose and decide like if there's anything in there that you like. And it worked. So after that, it was really a process of getting comfortable with the medical environment and all the needles, and just the environment alone was stressful for me because I had like major phobias of hospitals and needles and all that kind of stuff. But we were so well supported with all of that, like so well supported. Our medical support staff were real doctors and nurses. They're in the actual scenes with us, handing us things and filling the gaps for us. And then we always had nurse Magic Mike or Dr. Zach there with us. And there were actually some other doctors as well. We had, I don't want to give away too much, but if we needed a specialized doctor for something, that specialist was there on hand to help us out as well. So it was, they made it really hard to fail, to be honest. They gave us everything we needed.
You're a total natural on the show. All your movements and faces you make, you're a total natural. You're perfect for it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually a collection of a lot of people in my life that I admire and like, who are different in one way or another. And some of my own stuff as well. There's a lot of my own stuff that's in there as well. But it's just kind of a collection of things, I think, that I've picked up.
Does the world of jujitsu help your acting stance and the way you move or anything?
I think that jujitsu has changed me as a person a lot. It's helped me build a real intrinsic sense of confidence that that is very different than what my perception of confidence was before I did jujitsu. It's not something that I have to think about communicating. It's just a confidence in knowing that with the majority of people who I encounter, if something were to happen, I would be able to handle myself. And it's not necessarily be able to like do damage to that person, but I'd be able to defend myself enough and for long enough to get away in most situations. And I also feel like I have a good judgment of environments and people that I need to kind of stay away from who could be physically dangerous, just because, you know, jujitsu is really a question of constantly testing this with as many people as you can, with actual like hand-to-hand sparring, right? Like we do this for real. We practice with each other with real strength and techniques and stuff. And so you really get a good sense of kind of who you are in relation to the world around you. And that 100%, I think, comes through in my acting and in my character. And it's also taught me a lot about, you know, body language that communicates the opposite. And these are very subtle differences that we pick up as people, but we're not necessarily conscious of. And so the combination of my experience in jujitsu with my understanding and my commitment, I guess, to trying to make my characters as real as possible, it's all about those little details that you need to be paying attention to, and whether or not you realize what it is you're seeing. You know, it could be just a slight change in posture or whatever that'll communicate something that is reflective of the way we interact in real life. I don't know if that was clear, but
no, that's a good Miss America answer. I like it.
A nice big circle around to
right.
Point.
Quentin Tarantino, Sam Mendes, and Transplant, the show, you guys do these really long walking shots, one takes. How was it knocking that out? Because there's a lot to do. You gotta walk, act like a doctor. You know, those are long and they're cool to watch because they're. So how was it doing those scenes?
You know, we worked with Holly Dale at the very beginning, and she was big on the walk and talks. And so because she did the first 3 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, that's what we kind of came in with. And I think that that just set us up for success for the rest of the season, where there was a little bit less of that. So having to learn how to nail that language and nail these intense scenes and you know, keep the energy up here and then do that while walking. And because we were thrown into it and, you know, we just kind of had to nail it, it's, you know, it's kind of like sink or swim, right? And none of us are sinkers. We all, we're all there to work and to do our best. And so it worked out really, really well. But I definitely think that having Holly there in the beginning and setting that pace and pushing us the way that she did, just made everything else that everything that came after that just kind of more natural.
Was it hard to memorize the names of the medicines, the IVs, the terminology? Was it hard to remember those?
Yeah, I didn't memorize it. That was my secret, because if I told myself that I had to memorize things, then I would become really anxious about that. I've always been really bad at, you know, reading and writing and memorizing in school. Those things were always big issues for me growing up. And so I kind of had to trick myself. And so my way of doing it was really to kind of like, what is my scene right now? What is required of me right now? I understand the storyline, I know what's happening, and I have to be confident in the fact that I know the character. And then everything else just becomes, remember these lines, remember these words, know what they mean. And then once it's done, get rid of it. What's the next scene? What are the next lines? What do I need to know? And then kind of knock it out that way. But like actors like Laurence Leboeuf, for example, she's like our walking encyclopedia. And that's a huge part of her character, is that she just like rattles off these combinations of complex, you know, diseases and medications and situations. And like, she just nails it every single time. And it's really, really impressive. But June's character is a little bit more kind of laid back in general, so I didn't have nearly as much of that to do as Laurence's character did.
Cool, cool. Last question. In the 70s, there was a show called Emergency. In the 90s, it was ER. And then we had Grey's Anatomy that ruled it. I think Transplant is the now show it's going to be. Why is this show different than all those shows? I'm going to kind of paraphrase something that Joe said and Hamza said a couple times in interviews, which is that this show, is about the guy who's in all of these shows, but that we never get to know anything about. And that is very true to the Bash character, but I think it's also true to a lot of the supporting characters as well. And I think that the world is kind of ready and curious about the other people that they live with and other life experiences and stories and perspectives and trials and tribulations and struggles. And I think that it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people to realize how similar we are in what we deal with, even though the situations may be different, that, our emotions and our vulnerabilities are often very, very similar. And so, I think that the relatability of the characters, the fact that it's a medical show that really deals with medical, situations, and does a very good job of being accurate about that. But also, it's like not a medical show. You know what I mean? It's a show about people trying to do their best and trying to contribute and trying to figure out life. And it's so much about that too. And the writers have just made this incredible balance of tossing it back and forth, and they've managed to keep it real throughout. So I think that just makes for really captivating television. And we're going to go out there and give an opportunity for people who don't often have an opportunity to see themselves on screen represented in ways that they can actually connect to, as opposed to the projection of the outside world onto who they are or who they're supposed to be. So all of that makes it excellent television. Well, what makes excellent television to me was that subtle little hand grab that you did with your boyfriend, that little tiny, and that was such a great little scene, by the way. Thank you. That was a cool, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I do. And I had some I'd never had to do any intimacy scenes prior to the show. And I was really nervous about that. My characters have always been, very tough. They fight a lot, literally fight a lot of sci-fi stuff, which I absolutely love. That's my jam. But there was a challenge there in showing an intimate side. And so I was lucky enough to have an intimacy coach named Brad Cook, who worked with Eddie and I to help build that. And so putting my natural inhibition and connecting that with what Brad kind of opened up, and then having a partner as awesome as Eddie to work with, all of that created those really great moments between Lou and June. Well, you're perfect on the show. I can't wait to see the rest of the episode. And it was awesome speaking with you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was nice talking to you too. And enjoy your boxing machine. Thank you. And go Jamaica, go Ghana. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Great talking to you, Ayisha. Great talking to you too. Bye. Bye.